Lauren. How are you?
I'm good. Great.
Wonderful. So, congratulations on your visceral, powerful film. It's played Tribeca, it's played Outfest LA. You won a top prize at Tribeca. So, I'm curious what have some been your reactions that you've received that really stayed with you?
Well, I mean, just having any kind of positive reaction. Tribeca was the first time that I saw it with an audience of more than two people. I finished this film in my kitchen during the pandemic on my laptop, my
Wow.
roommate making dinner behind me, like it felt like I was working in a void, in a vacuum. And it was really difficult. So to put it out into the world and have any kind of positive reaction at all, it's been, um I don't know, amazing, quite frankly, to see people connect with it. And I had a whole first career that I kind of put on hold and was stepping away from, and took a big gamble to make this film. And if this didn't work out, I would be fucked a little bit. But seems like it's doing okay. So knock on wood, I'll get to make a second film.
Yeah, yeah. So, tell me about collaborating with Isabel, who plays Alex in this film.
Yeah, Isabel is incredible, and I think that I don't know. I mean, it felt almost effortless in the way, like the first week of shooting was water week, and for me that just really was survival and just coordinating and the logistical aspect. So much of being a director is working with the actor and that kind of intimacy, but like in the beginning didn't for the first week, it wasn't about that, because I was just trying to fucking survive and get the boats where they need to be and the camera where it needs to be, and make sure that no one knew anything about rowing but me. And it was like having to sort of communicate all this. But Isabel took total command of the performance and the emotional aspect, and I was seeing that, barely able to give her real direction beyond just a sentence here or there, because of the chaos of everything else going on. But she took total command of it, and I could see that. And then so when we finally got to shooting the rest of the film, like the next 3 weeks of doing like the dialogue and everything else, and I think I felt like I could see how far she could go. And also having things in my head for years, and then seeing her, the first take, there's a scene with her and Jamie in the car, and Jamie's in the background talking and sort of shooting the shit and making jokes, and Isabel's looking out the window and crying, like holy fuck, well, you have to be kidding. Like, I didn't have that in my head, and the fact that she was able to have such control over her craft and herself. And when Amy is making these hilarious jokes, I literally had to get out of the car because I was laughing, because it was insane. And so being able to see that, see her do that without me even saying anything, made me realize how capable she was, and even challenged me to be like, oh, I can push her further than, like, she's incredible. And I think that
Yeah.
we felt a trust in each other, of able to say, like, I want to try this, or no, let's do it this way, and like really a collaboration to the point. But by the end, I'd seen how incredible she was. Like the scene in the bathroom with Danny and Alex, like, I had it in my head this way where and I told, you don't give actors line readings, but I was
Mm.
like, Isabel, I've had this in my head for 2.5 years. She's gonna say this line. I want you to laugh, and I want there to be a tear on your cheek. Like, it's been in my head. I know you can do it. And boom, 4 takes, every single time, a laugh, tear on your cheek, and it's what's in the film. And yeah, it was wonderful. Like, I don't know. I haven't made a film since this, but I hope that I have this kind of experience in the future. She's just incredible.
Wow. So, are there other moments that made it into the film that really surprised you?
Um, I mean, tons. I think so much of the filmmaking process is being open. I think, having gone through this now, and even my experience working in sound, like
Mhm.
you want directors who are too, you have to be a control freak, I think, to do this, and I am. But being open to things, and open to kind of collaboration and surprises, because there's little things like, one with my DP Todd, for instance. I mean, I know you're probably asking about Isabel, but with him, we were doing a makeup test with Isabel, and we had put this lens on the camera, and she was just being quirky and like, woo, went into the camera and made some funny face. And me and Todd noticed that when she did that, there was something weird happening with the lens. Like, it looked doubled up in the background, and the lens was broken, it turns out. And instead of being like, this, we gotta get a new lens, we can't use this, we're like, this is our fucking crazy Alex lens. And so that was a discovery. And then things like the score, for instance, that's the one thing
Yeah.
about the music I knew, like the songs I knew from the script stage, I wanted 1960s love songs, but the score was something that I had no idea about until the 11th hour. And I tried out all these different kind of temp tracks and whatever. And I was actually, by chance, heard a track from The Farewell when I was on one of my pandemic aimless drives through LA. And I heard this track from The Farewell, which this movie is not anything like The Novice, but I heard it and it clicked in my head. And I was like, holy shit, like this is it. I turned my car around, drove straight home, like cut 7 minutes out of the film and like re-temp scored everything, and like it was a complete 180 from all the score who had been in there before. And I wrote this email to Alex Weston, like, you got to do the score for this movie. You were inspired me. It was just, it was just an afternoon for him in New York having pizza, and I sent him this like really impassioned, crazy, manic email, and he's like, okay, yeah, I'll do it. But yeah, I mean, it's like there's a lot of moments like that, just kind of, even in the bathroom scene that I was talking about earlier, the take that we ended up using of them kind of like fighting and getting pulled down to the floor together, that was something that wasn't in the script. So I think it's just being open and trusting the people that you're with and like rolling with the punches, so to speak.
Yeah. So speaking of Todd, I'm curious about what you wanted for the look of the film.
Well, when we sent out the script, I had made this lookbook that was pretty intense. Like it was very kind of manic, crazy. Not a lot of lookbooks, if you've ever seen any of them, they tend to just have pictures kind of neatly put and capturing the vibe and using other films. But the one I made was very much kind of this journal and kind of crazy, like as if Alex Dahl had made this lookbook to try to evoke that. And so I had a clear vision of what I wanted, and taking images of like ravens and scrawling and scratching and chicken scratch and pasting, like physically pasting things and just doing all this crazy shit. And I took that to, took it out. So I think Todd knew from the beginning, like a very clear idea. And then when looking for a DP, like I looked through a lot of, this is his first film and as well. But his stuff that he's made, like it has this look to it. And I looked at a lot of people's stuff and I just kept coming back to his. I'm like, there's no one I've seen that's compared to this. And then I think a lot of being a director is something that I've, had to learning, because I had a lot of, I think, imposter syndrome. I think so many directors come into their first film knowing a lot about image and camera and lenses and all this stuff. And I never did. It's never been my thing. Like I've been the sound geek, but with Todd, like I was able to just tell him what I was seeing and talk him through it and show him these images, and he was able to just fucking make it happen. And it felt like, in the same way with Isabel, it was like that with him. Like we had this relationship where we could kind of challenge each other and push each other, and he was elevating what I was in my head already. And he, at times I wasn't afraid to be like, no, let's do it my way. And other times I was like, whatever you just did, just go with it, because that is brilliant. And I think that's the beauty of it as well, is being able to kind of do whatever. And he directed. One time I told Todd, I was like, you know what, you really were like the director of, you were like a director. He's like, well, it is called the director of photography. And I was like, oh yeah, okay, I get it now. Like he had total control over all that. He's also brilliant. I'll work with him forever.
And then the coach in the film, I think early on, says the rhythm is everything. So can you talk a little about what you want in terms of the edits and the rhythm of the film?
Yeah, I mean, I think about rowing is, as a sport, it is as much a mental thing as it is physical. And I think for me, you're doing the same motion over and over and over and over. You're on a 90-minute row, you're staring at the back of someone's head, and you're doing 22 strokes a minute for 10 minutes and going up 2 strokes a minute, 24, 26. It's very rhythmic. Everything is rhythmic. Everything is a dance. Everything is, and I think also too, is this analogy of like, we all hear the crude cliche, it's not about the size of the boat, it's the motion of the ocean, right? So I think when I was younger, especially too, you think that you have to muscle everything, you have to be forceful and aggressive to get everything that you want. But really a lot of life, whether sport or career or relationships, is the finesse. It is being easy. It is being patient. It is kind of like this rhythmic thing. And like realizing that and learning that for myself was a huge epiphany, and it's something that Alex has to learn. But when it came to the editing, I mean, yeah, I wanted the film to feel frenetic. I wanted it to feel like, I don't want the audience to feel like they have a moment to breathe, really. I want it to feel like you're driving off a fucking cliff. And everything with the film, whether the sound, the music, the visuals, to the editing as well, it all goes back to the intention and the story. And everything that I'm doing, everything that is in the film, it's not just done because it's cool. It is adding to I want to make the audience feel subjectively what Isabel's character is feeling. Like, I want to put the audience in that headspace. I want the audience to feel the anxiety and the terror and the uncertainty and the humiliation that the character is feeling. So that really is the thing that drove the editing choices more than anything.
Mm. I love the critics are comparing it to Whiplash because you worked on Whiplash. You helped contribute to the excellence of that film. So, and I know you've worked with many different directors and actors on ADR. So what are some of the formative experiences that you've had in terms of working with directors and actors?
Well, I think for me, it was, and this is something else, like coming into as a first time director, I realized I had this really unique education because I have been on the ADR stage with incredible actors that I grew up admiring, you know, won awards and have been in huge films, and these directors too that I've like looked up to, whose films I would watch in the theater in small town Texas, and now I'm in the same room with them. And I really just tried to, you know, I don't know about specifics per se, but anytime I was in the room with a director, you know, on the ADR stage, seeing how different directors directed the actor, like some are more laid back and, you know, try it this way. And I'm like, yeah, that's good. Or some of them are very specific and neurotic. And also, how do you deal with an actor who is because actors, you know, they're putting themselves out there, they're raw, they're whatever, and you have to like be gentle with that and seeing how different directors deal with meltdowns and actors melting down and losing their fucking shit. And like all of that was an education. I was just, I think, a sponge in the way, you know, they say like children, they see everything you do. They hear, whether or not you think they're taking it in, they are. And I was really much just a kid, like a baby, you know, toddler, growing up and soaking in all these lessons. And really, I think when it came to directing actors specifically, the things that I most latched on to was noticing I always kind of like liked more the directors who were more specific and more kind of gave like had a clear, like, this is what I want. And I think I actually think that people, I know myself speaking, we actually do better when we have a clear order. Like we know where the boxes to play in, because it's like, what do you want to eat? And there's like fucking a million, I don't know, like, but if I say, do you want Italian or do you want Chinese food? It's much more simple and it's almost more liberating. It's like, you know, for myself, I think about even like a dog, like comparing myself to like my dog. It's like my dog wants to know that I'm in control. When I'm with people, like when I date people, I like people who take control and do whatever. And when I'm working with, like, I think there's a comfort in knowing someone has a clear intention. So like when I'm working with someone, like when I work with Todd, he took control. Like I felt like he was my master. He knew it. I could trust him. I felt safe with him. I knew what we were doing. And I wanted with my actors too, like, this is what's in my head. This is what I want. This is where you can play. And I think that gives them, like, you feel like I can run free in this fucking yard. I'm safe. Like no one's gonna get me. I can do whatever I want. And every now and then, you know, an actor will challenge you or want to step out of the comfort zone, and I'm down with it. So yeah, not to, hopefully actors aren't gonna be like, she's equating us to being a dog. Not at all, but yeah.
So I'm curious, which works have you seen recently that really inspired you?
Oh fuck. Trying to think. God. See, this is that question. This is the open-ended question.
Sorry. Give more direction.
Well, like a film that inspired me a lot in personal life was The Portrait of a Lady on Fire. That was, I saw that last year right before the pandemic hit. And I think I am not a subtle filmmaker. Anyone who's seen The Novice will agree with me there. But I think that film is very subtle and beautiful, but at the same time, it's very bold. And, you know, it's very slow. It's very kind of quiet, but it feels like this very long buildup. And the last 15 minutes are this incredible payoff to everything that came before. And I think I saw it 4 times in theaters. And that inspired me to learn French, and I moved to Paris. So I would say that's pretty inspiring. Yeah.
Wow. Well, thank you so much for the art that you bring into the world, Lauren. I really appreciate it. Have a lovely day. Thank you for this.
Thank you. And thank you for your time.